Well, Lynch has spoiled some opportunities for Morgan, and Simone McInnes is absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, Simone's having a great game. I felt in Canberra when she played against Sue Kenny, she was forced into a chasing role rather than making Sue run where she wanted to go. This time she's really putting some pressure on Sue. Unfortunately, that isn't being converted at the other end. When you've got defences the calibre of McInnes, Lynch and Taverner, you really have to capitalise on everything you get from them.
Well, Jocelyn Bryant is going to come on as a shooter, and Arnott's going off rather than the positional change. So it's making the substitution, and Bryant does have some good stats behind her. But
do you have much knowledge, Lizzie, of her style of play? Is there a way you'd approach her?
Yes, she's a little similar to Arnott, but she doesn't quite have the finesse in feeding that Arnott has. She's a much more of a holding style of a shooter. We saw that last year when she played for Victoria in the Nationals. She holds and waits for the pass to come in. And Keely Devry has played against her before when she was playing goal shooter for Victoria.
That could be a worry then, because Southby can be a bit proper yourself, and the beauty of Arnott is that you do have that fluency. So yeah, in your opinion, would it be better perhaps to have brought Arnott forward and let her plug it away to Southby rather than put on a more proper shooter?
Yes, that's a decision I would have made.
What do you know, you're a keeper.
But my name isn't Norman Plummer, so it's not something that I can do. I'd like to have seen Arnott come out into a feeding role. She's a beautiful feeder. Under pressure, I think her passes are just wonderful. She can really put the balls in that need to be put in when the games get close, and I think we saw her do that last night.
Well, I'd agree, because although her goaling's off, she has put some beautiful ball through to Southby.
Yes, and it's no surprise that Southby's being left on. She's having a wonderful game, although I am surprised she's being left out at goal attack. Finnan is really making her work hard for every ball she gets, and it's not an easy job for her. We'll have to see how her fitness stands up, as she's been playing goal shooter for most of the tournament. So
well, I've got to put it to you. You said you didn't want to say it because you're not Norma Plummer, but you nearly told Lynch how to play on Morgan in the last break.
I know, I was hoping I wasn't standing too close to her. I think she might have heard me.
You're a dangerous weapon down there, Liz. Thanks for your half-time contribution as Carol Sykes lays down the last-minute law. Penalties, Melbourne still attracting just a touch more whistle. Turnovers, nothing in that, 16 to 15. And attempts, Sydney enjoying a little bit more possession, so 33 shots up to 27. The lead is 5, and look, nothing in those shooting percentages, 75 to 74. A very even game, but just a touch more possession going Sydney's way. And Bryant, we'll see what kind of contribution she can make. She is the import for this Melbourne team. Comes from the East Side Club. And not much of her, as you can see. Third quarter begins. Sydney up by the 5.
And as we just noted, Steve, the combined shooting stats make them on a par. It's the possession that hurt Melbourne in the last. Sydney Electricity through Joe Morgan. The stats have dropped 11 from 16, but you're not going to do anything about it because she is a target for them. Nikki Cusack 100%, so the few opportunities she's had, she's made good with. Melbourne Pumas, well, we talked about Danny Arnott being removed from the game. She's sadly been sitting on 33%. By contrast, Eloise Southby, 9 from 11 at 81%. They really want to wrap her in cotton wool and make every opportunity go her way.
Hind, Dalwood. Kenny. And Morgan.
Lynch then caught a little bit close on Morgan's body. I think Lizzie talked about that in the first break. If you get caught too close, there's no room to go up and attack the ball, and you're really caught standing and watching.
And a contact against Bryant off the ball. They're just finding the pace and the spaces as she joins the game.
Always the chance for Melbourne, if they find this doesn't work, is to swing it back again and perhaps then put Southby back and move Arnott up the front. What they need to do, though, is hold and stay within Cooey.
Kenny over the top for Morgan.
And Lynch again close, caught really close on Morgan, and Morgan making her pay. Lynch's position good, but she's really nuzzling in on Morgan, so Morgan just has to hold and the ball put to the back space.
Here's Morgan again, and Sydney score the first 3 of the third quarter. And it's danger for Melbourne. Southby. Into the corner goes Benison. Bryant still looking for a touch.
Well, she made a good move and would have been a tidy one to offer, but they still were looking for Southby. Here's a chance.
And she slips between defenders to grab and goal. Well, Bryant shot 79 from 92 in 2 games, 86%. So she comes in with a healthy goal shooting percentage from earlier matches.
If you want to be hard-nosed about the match statistics, Arnott put up 2 goals in the first quarter, 1 in the second. So that's really all Bryant has to improve on to probably be worth the substitution. What they're losing, though, is the combination and the movement. And there was a hesitancy to give the ball to Bryant on a move then. And if that's going to break down, Sydney will really punish them.
Kenny to Dalwood. Oh, Cusack works the back.
Taverner knowing that Cusack had stepped on and she was really going to try and work from the original landed foot, but obstructs on the way.
Oh, that was... Oh, how did Kenny get that? I thought she was beaten by McInnes and Morgan now. Oh, near impossible passes, those two. And only skillful players can pull those in.
Good effort from Morgan, and she was coming down on a stationary player, so she had to be a little careful how she managed it.
Southby.
Don't like the signs in the Melbourne shooting circle. I think they've lost the flow. Bryant looking, I suppose it's early days for her, but looking just a touch lost.
Play. Advantage offside.
Devery, always hers. She looked even mean then.
Oh, never. Kenny.
Hey, you haven't stood and faced her in a circle. Mean in a nice kind of way. Nice take from Hind.
Kenny or Cusack in space.
Well, Cusack thought it was obstruction from Taverner, but it was a 3-second call against her. I'm glad I shut up then, because I was about to say Sydney looking comfortable, and they made a meal of it.
Well, they're up by 10. I know Carol Sykes holds the view. You just look at it quarter by quarter. Just try and win each quarter by 1 or 2. Well, they won the first quarter by 2, the second quarter by 3, so they had a 5-goal lead at half-time, but quite suddenly it's out to 10.
Better movement then from Bryant, and a confident shot. Benison, quick offload. Southby now doing the feeding to Bryant, so they've reversed roles. And Bryant already equalised Arnott's best effort in a quarter for this match. Long range, I was going to say long range from Orkin. She's had the pleasure of them closer, but that was use of the elbow on the drive around the front of Lynch. And you just can't sit back and think Sydney have the win, because Melbourne have come back from bigger margins than this.
Nevertheless, Sydney are leading this quarter 6-2.
Contact wing defender. Contact goal defence. Shot or pass.
Easy advancement to the circle for Melbourne. Silly offload from Southby, though.
Wing attack. Penalty, Sydney.
Perhaps saw the movement outside the circle and felt it was a feeder, but it was Hind.
Kenny to Dalwood to Cusack. So the crowd's gone strangely quiet here. State Sports Centre. Morgan. Benison. Melbourne needing to get something going. Southby was nearly the intercept from Finn, and she has to hurry back to the circle.
Well, Melbourne trying really hard to get the pass and cut happening, but Sydney smothering the ball.
Norma Plummer. Worrisome times for her.
But the problem now for them is they have Bryant on court, and she's put up 3, but they haven't enjoyed any from Southby. So what they had in one, they've now lost with the other. I really think the answer for them might be Southby back with a mover up the front of her. And maybe that's what they'll try in the last. They just need to stay in touch, though, because Sydney won't cave in.
They've got to do more than just sit on this 10-goal deficit. They've got to haul in a couple.
Great ball to
Devery.
Ingrid Dick, but Devery smothering the move of Bryant. Bryant just not having enough to shake her. Finnan looking beautiful through the middle.
Oh, Dalwood, the pass put in front of her to
Centre, Melbourne.
allow her to run onto it at full speed. Kenny. Dalwood waits.
Dalwood, of course, the import for Sydney Electricity. Plays for Manly Warringah in Sydney. She just looks like she belongs in this side. Of course, very comfortable as part of the New South Wales combination. Key player in this team, having a wonderful series.
I saw a shot. Instruction, land and arm.
Clear instructions from Maureen Boyle.
Well, Carol Sykes on the right there, outwardly impassive, but I'm sure inside feeling that with an 11-goal lead, Sydney aren't far away from the Prime Minister's Cup.
Advantage contact.
Morgan. Taverner the rebound, or puts Southby under pressure. Benison to Bryant. Cross court again to Benison. Well,
Little
Bryant,
fake from Devry then, really forcing the error from Southby.
Bryant is creating a little bit of space for herself at times, but the pass isn't finding her when she's available. The pass can't be made when she's available. Let's give the defence some credit. Six minutes out from three-quarter time. 34-23 Sydney. Classic high shot from Cusack.
Nikki Cusack, classic shot.
Bryant. All the way back to Taverner. Quickly gets it going forward again. And, oh, Finnan. Brilliant work to keep it in. But
McInnes always there with a reply.
Finnan once more.
Sideline.
I think we've all been impressed with the form of Sharon Finnan in the second half of this competition. Well, right throughout, but really she's stepped up a gear in the last few matches we've seen Sydney Electricity play.
I think she's playing some of the best netball we've ever seen from her.
A former Australian player, of course.
She's been bothered with injury last season, but she really produced some great netball for New South Wales, and I just think having a tremendous season this year.
Morgan strong under the ball and accurate with the shot.
I think the crowd's decided it's a Sydney Electricity win, and they're sitting back watching. Melbourne probably have other ideas.
5 minutes left in the quarter. 12 the lead now.
Replay.
Fine, Dalwood. This is a much happier combination we're seeing this year with Sydney Electricity.
A lot of work from Lynch before the ball, but Morgan still comes through with the goods. Kenny with the drive. Lynch all over Morgan, does her best, but Morgan stands up to it. I think, Steve, really courageous stuff from Sydney to recover from last year's season, and they just went into this year more relaxed and feeling more confident in themselves and just deciding, well, let's have the netball flow and netball come, and they've had a great season as a result.
Well, this has been the quarter where it slipped away from Melbourne. They've been outscored 13-5.
Taverner up quick because she knows she can't take possession on the ground. What hustling work and backup work from Melbourne, from Taverner, McInnes and Lynch.
Well, they might be down by 13, but they're not out, not in their own minds.
Really don't think you can peg a loss on their defence line. They've given it all. They've struggled in goals, and that hasn't happened too often for them. I know earlier on in the competition it was the goaling end that really played through Garvel and stood up to Michelle Filkey and Robin Gill and just kept shooting them into the grave. It's just fallen away at last couple of games when they needed it.
Play.
Finnan.
And Sydney's possession from the back line, and put that down to Finnan's determination and athleticism.
I think she looks tough enough she could run a marathon after the game, just looking for more.
Well, she has that right knee strap there. There's a couple of players out there for both teams that playing 2 matches in 2 days really stretches their recuperative powers. Finnan has an ordinary knee. Gillian Hind has one as well. So now it's 14, 2.5 minutes left in the quarter. Ingrid Dick.
Oh, what a switch. The Sydney defensive pair working beautifully together. The switch timed to perfection between Devry and Finnan. And again, Finnan again inside position. Full stretch under the ball, forces the error. They might have a bronze after the game.
Well, they're certainly frustrating Bryant and Southby. Devry retreats to the post.
Again, tremendous work. She forced the scare by having a go at the outside ball. The recovery was quick to come back onto the shooter near the post. Then the touch to force the throw in, and look how quick it is over the shot.
Well, they took a minute, I would guess, to finally work it into a shootable position. And the Sydney defence is really making them work so hard for so little. 39-26.
You can't imagine Sydney Electricity losing it from here, although I've been in games where it's happened.
Yeah, I hope you weren't responsible.
No, we chased. We chased hard.
Oh, I see. You got there, right.
We got there by 2. But so as soon as you say something like that, as it's open to the post, Devry decided she'd go all the way.
Once she missed, it was open.
Well, she's laughing about it. One of those ones, when you go, and she's gone.
Bryant, the easy finish.
I guess you can laugh about it when you're 12 up. Oh, Devry had good position then. It was...
Or was she defending her off the court? Just about. Anyway, the umpires let it go. Obstruction against Benison, sorry, Anne.
Just a lot of confidence on court. As soon as Finnan was denied access to that throw-in, Hind was quick to back up. There's been variety, lots of options, strength onto the ball. And it's nice to see a smiling Sydney Electricity. Morgan still staying disciplined and holding in the circle, and Cusack being the mover.
Oh, did she keep that in? I think Cusack was a juggler in a previous life. Trace of a smile from Cusack inside the last 15 seconds of the third quarter. Sydney with a handsome lead, it has to be said. And it's 13 that they lead by with only 15 minutes left in the MOBIL League final for 95. They really dominated that third quarter, converting a 5-goal lead into 13. So Sydney Electricity 40, Melbourne Pumas 27. Well, I think Sydney have got at least one hand and maybe a couple other fingers on the Prime Minister's Cup. Liz Ellis, what did they do right in that third quarter?
About everything, Steve. I think they all want to put a hand on the Prime Minister's Cup at the moment. They're so confident. Everybody is going for everything. You know that the Sydney team is confident when you see Keely Devry run out of the circle almost to the third line for a ball. That's just an indication of really how they're all just so geared up. They really want to win this, and I think that's how they're playing. They're chasing everything. Everything's going right for them. The calls are going their way, and really Melbourne have no answer for that. They've also got very little answer for Jo Morgan. She was very strong during that quarter, and I felt that despite the fact that the Melbourne defenders really had a go at everything, again, their shooting end let them down. There was a lot less movement that time without Arnott, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Arnott perhaps come back on for Melbourne. That might be a wise change.
That was my pick, and there, Pat Chappell has run across to the bench with positional changes. We just can't quite see them yet. If we can get into the huddle, we might get a look. I agree with you. I think they need the mover on court and Southby at the back.
Yes, they were lacking an awful lot of movement then. Both shooters were propping and holding, and then when they both realised they needed movement, both went at the same time and usually to the same place, and it really left the feeders with nowhere to go but backwards most of the time.
The problem with that third quarter formula was that it shifted the shooting responsibilities away from Southby, and they needed to stay on Southby. She's the one putting them up with few misses, and they really need her to be available and on target. It seems, though, that Bryant still has the shooting patch on it, and what they're going to do is change the mid-court and take Ingrid Dick from the court and introduce Susie Howie.
That's an interesting move. They made that last time that they played Sydney, and I really didn't think that it paid off. So we'll have to see how it goes this time.
Thanks, Lizzie. Let's have a look at some stats and penalties. So really, well, that's 7 now more for against Pumas. Turnovers, still not much in that. In fact, they've got 2 more, so they're doing well in that department. But Sydney Electricity enjoying more possession. That's reflected in their 14 more attempts and 13 more goals, so they lead at 40-27, and their shooting percentage is looking pretty healthy as well, 80-75.
It's yours for the new.
Well, has to be worry in the Melbourne camp. Just 15 minutes to make good a 13-goal deficit. New centre, Sue Howie, has the ball, and she gets Melbourne moving forward, and a drop from Benison.
And just look at Joe Morgan's stats, 9 from 10, 90%, and Nikki Cusack really playing the game of her life for Sydney Electricity, 6 from 7, really coming through with the goods when they needed it at 85%. Puma's 100% from Bryant, so she's been right on target for them, but in giving her more, they've lost from Southby. She went down to 1 from 3, 33%, so Melbourne really not able to win in the shooting department, just not having 2 shooters firing at the same time.
Well, only 17 attempts to 9. Sydney enjoying the benefit of that statistic, and 15-7 the quarter 1 by Sydney. The premiership quarter, they often say, the 3rd. Although it was the 2nd in Canberra, where Sydney took control of the match.
Bryant with a long-range shot.
Darwood to Cusack. It's really going to require something extraordinary from Melbourne to pull it out of the fire. And keeping in mind the standard at which Sydney has played its last few matches, it would require an extraordinary drop-off in quality from them. They're playing at home. They want it pretty badly. And this club hasn't won the MOBIL Super League, at least in this current format. 91 it was Pulsars, 92 Pulsars again.
Sutherland.
Yep, which is the Sutherland club, and then Garville in 93, contacts last year. Keely Debry, of course, has had her hands on the cup when she was an import for Sutherland.
Yes, and again when it was a combined team years ago in a different format.
Bryant, looking for the meat in the sandwich, which was Southby, and she's hurt. She just was on the end of what looked like a very dangerous pass, and did prove to be danger, because Finnan drops back. Devery is already on her, and she's rolled that right ankle for sure. Yes, her foot's come down on top of Finnan's. She's made of stern stuff. Daughter, of course, of a famous footballer, and Jeff Southby from Carlton.
On the whistle. Instruction.
Melbourne centre pass. Sue Howie takes it quickly. Benison. They've not only got to do a lot, they've got to do it fairly quickly. Trail by 11. 12.5 minutes left in the final for 95. Howie. Bryant. So Norma Plummer hoping that fresh legs in the centre can make a difference. Well, they've reduced 13 goals to 10.
Quick hands from the forward line, but not enough on it to get over the top of the Taverner. So Melbourne might be able to haul a few back, but big ask to recover from 10.
Southby. Back to 9. They've really got some youth out there, Melbourne, when you consider Southby's 18, Sue Howie only just 19, and Benison, Lynch and Tavern are all in their early 20s.
Well, that's what earned them so much support in their semi-final. I mean, they were playing in front of a Sydney crowd, and Sydney-siders and Melbourneites don't barrack for each other too much, but the crowd really got behind them because they respected there was a lot of youth, future talent on court, and they were just playing sensational netball. And I think there's been a lot of respect for the way Melbourne has played this series.
And McInnes is the old girl at 29.
Yeah, ancient.
Morgan. Sydney, the margin into double figures again.
Sydney.
Step into the circle. Anyone for a waltz? Kenny to Cusack. You almost expect the side that is 10 or 12 up to play a little more conservatively in the last quarter, trying not to attract the whistle.
Cusack fakes it to the side, but finds Morgan well positioned.
The trailing, more desperate team might take a few off the margin. It just feels like it's too much to haul back. Let's see if Melbourne can make a liar of me. Nothing would give them greater pleasure. Dalwood. Oh, Morgan in trouble.
Taverner trying to play smart netball, put the speed on and tried to get on court before the ball had bounced out of court. Very nearly did it.
Cusack, air ball. She'll claim it was a pass. Jenny, what was it? A pass, she's I don't think so.
She's a Sydney girl.
Yeah, you're a softie.
She's biased.
Now, statistician, Jenny. We'll have to have a word to you later. Bryant. Fielder's choice, I guess you call it. 45-35, 9:20 to go. Kenny.
I think all Sydney has to do is to keep putting the ball up in the air. That was a stutter, but well recovered by Melbourne. I mean, Jo Morgan's not going to miss every chance she has under the post, so whilst that one's the rarity, it's not going to happen too often, and I think Sydney quite safe if they can just take their time working it and put it up into the air. Oh, Devry, very nearly the intercept. Almost dived under it.
Benison to Bryant. They both shuffle back to Southby and Bryant.
And just a better run from the Melbourne shooters. Bryant with 6 from 7, Southby 3 from 4, but turns over again.
That's against Benison. Breaking into the centre third prematurely. Kinnan.
They need far more effort through the middle third defensively, particularly from Southby. Benison too.
Wing attack the side.
Sue Kenny called for the step. That's why we have the turnover.
And just put out of play then by Maureen Boyle.
Advantage offside. Wing attack. Centre offside.
Sue Howie. Caught with the number 8s inside the circle. Dalwood.
Cusack wipes to Dalwood, ends up offering it to her. Morgan relentless.
It's 10 again. And Sydney in possession. And we're almost halfway through the last quarter. Certainly this is a different game, Anne, to what we saw in Canberra, where the final margin was 23. It's not going to be anything like that.
I really fell apart for Melbourne. It was a case of when the going's not good, it simply blows wide open. I think they've played very well, but they've been beaten by a better team tonight. You'd have to concede they haven't had their shooting department as they'd like for 4 quarters, and they've struggled as a result, and now contact against the call was goal shooter, I thought, but Southby's standing out. Now they're both out.
Yeah, the warning signs were there in Canberra when Arnott shot a respectable 66%, but they needed it in the 70s. Contact is against McInnes.
I think it's pretty safe to say the lights will be on in Sydney tonight. I know their sponsors are really involved with the team. They love them dearly, and all they wanted was for them to be able to put out their best and win, lose or draw from that, so they'd be delighted. They've followed them round to every match. It doesn't often happen with sponsors in our sport, but they've been there every game. Maybe the lights will be off then, if they're all here.
6 minutes left. Finnan, Cusack.
And Sydney just playing it around now. Tends a pretty nice way to run it home with 6 minutes to go.
Sydney by 11 and Melbourne with 5:50 to go. Just not showing the signs of being able to produce a big turnaround quickly. Southby, well, they went back to 9 some minutes ago and needed to keep the flow on happening then. Sydney were able to withstand that challenge. Oh, Morgan kept it in, but only for Lynch. Benison looking for a quick way to the circle. Howie lost the handle. Devery to it. Finnan and Kenny. Nola Callan had a look at the foot of Lynch, decided it was in. Obstruction against Morgan. 48-38, 4:50 to go. McInnes, Benison.
I know I might sound silly saying it, but I think Taverner and Lynch have done very little wrong. Lynch in particular has had a great game. She's just been beaten by the build and the stature of Joe Morgan and great feeding from Kenny and Cusack, but she's been around it. Maybe sometimes a little too close on the body, but I really think she's put her all into it.
Gillian Hine, the contact.
Carol Sykes, I think, thinking with those 4 minutes, please go now.
Bryant.
Not known for a composure, Sykesy.
Well, I'm just going to squeeze a little more anxiety out of her as Keely Devery looks at the clock, sees that there's 4 minutes and 5 seconds left and 8 goals.
Well, it's enough for 8 goals. That's the reality. As to whether they can do it, unlikely.
A really measured pass from Sue Kenny.
Oh, not so measured a goal. And that's probably the sort of stuff Carol wouldn't want to see in the last 3 minutes and 46 seconds. That might bring a sigh of relief.
Lynch. Cheer goes up from the crowd as they realise, or at least in their minds, maybe that was the clincher, because 3:30 to go. Howie. Back to Taverner. Howie again.
Advantage obstruction centre.
There's lots of contact happening in that circle. Devery got a bit of a knock.
Southby eventually offering a screen. Whether it was intended or not, I couldn't quite tell, but Bryant used it that way. They've brought it back, and again they do, and they've been noted as a team who won't die, won't give in, and we see it again. Southby not able to haul that one in, though.
That was one they needed to convert.
Would have made it interesting.
They give themselves a chance. Seconds tick away. 2:40. Kenny. Cusack. Kenny played on even before Nola Callan had a chance to say what it was for. Morgan. Great shot. Well, we were right in line with that. It never looked like missing.
Morgan 7 from 8 in this final quarter.
We've said it through a number of games, and how critics have waited for Joe Morgan to fold, and every game she's come up trumps. Never shot less than 70%, and in one match up in the 90s.
No, she's been a real reason for Sydney Electricity's success.
She's been given a huge workload too.
Interesting too, Steve, that Sydney will have only lost one match throughout the series, and that to Garble by 1 goal. So dubious pride for Garble in knowing they're the only ones to beat what will be the new National League champions.
Southby. Minute and a half left. And still it's Sydney by 8. Oh, Finnan not going to give anything away, even in the last minute or so. Dalwood, Morgan. And although certainly beaten today, Melbourne's performance across the league this year has been an eye-opener for everyone. Under Norma Plummer, they've played above expectations to reach the final. At the start of the competition, we thought Garble would probably feature today, and maybe Contacts, the title holders, but Sydney and Melbourne have proved the pundits wrong. Morgan pops another one in. So Victorian netball on the way back. Maybe not winners today. And at home, Sydney Electricity are going to do it. Dalwood in no hurry to take the centre pass. She's seen the time keeping it up out of the corner of her eye, I'm sure. It'll be Nola Callanan who blows full time in a moment. Cusack. And there it is. Sydney leading at every change. Sydney winning the Prime Minister's Cup. A fine game from Melbourne Pumas. After being humbled by 23 goals in their last qualifying match last week, they came back to win their semi-final, a thriller against Garble, and to make the final and make a real game of it. An excellent performance from Melbourne, but Sydney, a lot of experience in that 7. They didn't make any changes. Their starting 7 was the good one. It took them through the semi-final, a comfortable win over Contacts. And now, 53-45 winners over Melbourne Pumas. Joe Morgan, a standout performer across the series, maybe the player of the series, but certainly Sharon Finnan, outstanding also. One of the great players for Sydney this series. And Simone McKennis, one of Melbourne's best. She really led them beautifully. And smiles all round on that Sydney bench. And the crowd giving generous applause to Melbourne as they warm down. But Anne Sargent is ready now to talk to Sue Kenny.
Thanks, Steve. Well, Susie, congratulations. I've got to apologise because the crowd just wants to see you. Sydney loved the win, and it's been worth waiting for.
It certainly has, Anne. I mean, I've told you how bad we went last year, and it's just great to come out and win by 8 goals.
Well, there didn't seem to be any doubt tonight. You looked really determined, and the first quarter was just a beauty to behold. It was sensational netball from both teams, but just to see 2 teams in full flight and really striving.
Yeah, it was a great game. Whenever we play Melbourne, it's a very tough game, but it's a great game to play, and I really enjoyed it. And, you know, Melbourne put up a great fight. They played really well, but I'm just so proud of our team.
Do you have any sense, looking back on the game, of when it really turned and you felt like you had absolute control?
I think in the second quarter we started to feel like more of ourselves. In the first quarter we rushed it. We were a bit, you know, hesitant in our throwing again. You know, but we got on top of that, and our aim was to push on. You know, we have a tendency to relax and let the other team catch up, but our aim tonight was to push on, and that's what we did. And I think, you know, everyone should be proud of themselves.
And a superior defensive effort when you consider there's no current Australian defenders in the lineup, but they really played brilliant defensive work.
Yeah, they certainly did. Keely and Sharon are a great combination, and Gillian played, you know, really well along the outside of the circle, and that's what we were looking for.
Well, Susie, congratulations again, National League champion.
Thanks.
And Simone McKinnis, of course, skipper of the Melbourne Pumas. Disappointing, Simone, but you really gave it a run.
Yeah, we did. We certainly gave it everything we had right throughout the match. We fought it out to the end. I'm really pleased with the girls at getting through to the final and fighting it out so well tonight.
I thought defence was a feature of your game. You must be a little disappointed that you couldn't string 2 shooters on fire at the same time.
Yes, that has been a problem, but I think, you know, when Jocelyn came on throughout the match, she finished it off really strongly, but I think certainly our defence with Janine Lynch and Liz Taverner, that's been a highlight for us throughout the series, and tonight they did well again.
We have to congratulate you on your own effort. Just superb as always, Simone. I agree with you about your defensive circle. I kept saying they were getting beaten in that Morgan had a lot of ball, but they really weren't doing much wrong. It was really more a physical stature difference.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, it's always hard. You're not going to get every ball that's going into Joe. I mean, it's put in so well. So, I mean, we did well to pick up in the circle the balls that we did. I think, you know, the balls are being fed in so well. It's always going to be hard. You can't expect to get everything, but I think we did well.
You must take pride in the fact that you've really put yourselves on the map as a Melbourne club side to be reckoned with. If you consider the performance across the series and forget tonight by itself, it's really been wonderful netball, and the recovery in particular from Canberra's match against Sydney to tonight must, you know, really bring something to you.
Oh, for sure. I'm really pleased about that because it's, especially after the big loss against Sydney in the rounds, I think it's a test of a good team if they can come back from a defeat like that, and we certainly did that. Had a great game against Garvel, and obviously not the result we wanted tonight, but we certainly fought it out well.
Well, it was a pleasure for us to watch, and I know you're disappointed, but it was just wonderful for us. Congratulations on the effort, Simone.
Thanks, Anne.
Well, Steve, it's back to you, and a disappointed Simone McInnes, but really full credit to Sydney Electricity. What a wonderful performance.
Yes, thanks very much, Anne. And Simone, a gracious loser. Well, next Thursday night in our usual goal attack time slot, we'll have a replay of tonight's final, and I'm sure many of you will think it's worth a second look. On the following Thursday, we'll have the Challenge Cup final between Canberra and the Northern Territory. And the biggie is in late July. Saturday, the 29th, we're expecting to have the playoff, the 3rd and 4th, and the final of the World Championships, many expecting Australia and New Zealand to make that final. But that wraps it up for this evening, though, from the State Sports Centre at Homebush in Sydney. Sydney Electricity winners over Melbourne Pumas. I hope you enjoyed the match. We did. I'm Steve Rebillard. Goodbye for now.